Hello and welcome to the second video of my ultimate guild making guide. As a super quick reminder, these videos in this series are all going to be under the guild making playlist on my channel, and as I make more guild profit making content, I will continuously add to this playlist. At present, I'm looking at about 10 videos for initial launch, but as years and months go on, I'm going to add more to it. So long story short, I messed up my order on my videos, and my third video somewhat hinges on this video, so I pulled the ripcord and was like, oh no, I really need to explain this first. So this video is all about Grand Company seals. Probably the easiest passive source of guild making, but also one that I see tragically underutilized. I would know because I win almost every piece of gear in expert roulettes that I run, or in older raids. But when I really talk about passive guild incomes, this is one of the top ones that you can really have, because Grand Company seals practically ooze from all types of content into your lap without you really going out of your way. So if you were already running an expert roulette, or if you were already running an old raid like say the Evyx raids from Stormblood, these are already providing you with these things. You just gotta roll for them and try. So if this video helps you at all, or if you want to help support my content, I'd super incredibly appreciate if you gently smashed that like button with a scree. One of the screes of Ronka, and cat-daddied that subscribe button. Grand Companies are unlocked around level 20 or so following the main story questline. There are 3 Grand Companies that, for all intents and purposes, truly function the same. They do have a lot of various features through Grand Companies in general that I do not plan to cover in this video. This is very hyper-fixated on one profit-making aspect. But for our purposes, we're primarily focused on 2 of them in particular. We are focused on the Storm Personnel Officer and the Storm Quartermaster. If you're with a different Grand Company though, don't be surprised if it is Flame or Serpent Quartermasters. So why these 2 characters in particular are important is that the Personnel Officer will allow you to undertake supply and provisioning missions, better known as recycling your garbage. Specifically select the Expert Delivery tab, which honestly should be called the Recycle Your Garbage tab. So when you do various activities like raids or expert roulettes in the game, such as dungeons or certain trials even, you'll see a whole lot of gear drop. Do you want this gear, this random lower item level stuff that really doesn't fit your glam options? Yes. Yes, you 100% absolutely do. Why? Because reduce, reuse, and recycle. Wait, we're trying to tell people to try and roll on gear, yet I just said reduce. Consume, reuse, and recycle. So get greedy, roll on everything and anything, and if you can roll need, roll need. If you can roll greed, roll greed. Passing on things is no longer an option after this video, so please do it. Because honestly, you need to feed all of this gear into this Personnel Officer to get that sweet, sweet Grand Company seals. And I find it almost tragic because I really rarely see anyone else compete with me for random drops in expert roulettes or other forms of content. Basically, if you can get some piece of gear, always roll. I cannot stress this enough. Who cares if it's like 50 item levels lower, if it looks really bad? Just roll. But there are also 2 other tabs on this guy that are supply and provisioning. These other tabs are essentially more active ways to try and get Grand Company seals through crafting or gathering that, outside of leveling crafters and gatherers, I cannot really recommend, because in my experience the cost to time benefit ratio is so low that you're literally paying significantly more gil and time into getting those items than what you will actually get out of it in profit. So essentially the only expert delivery recycle your garbage tab matters. The others, not so much. One last thing before we finish talking about the Personnel Officer is that he will allow you to rank up your Grand Company rank through applying for promotions. These promotions are very important because they will allow you to have a larger selection of items from the Quartermaster, who we're going to talk about next. But this is very important because we are going to be using these Grand Company seals to buy a whole host of items. Some of them are locked behind significant promotion levels, so if you haven't, please do try and promote whenever you can. So now swapping over to the Quartermaster, she is essentially the shop that you go into in order to spend Grand Company seals. You can buy a whole lot of items, all the way from housing items to weapons and armor. You can buy relic items that are locked to your character. You can buy relic items that you can actually sell on the market board that we'll talk about later. But for our purposes, we're just focused on a few core items. Unfortunately, a lot of the suggestions I am going to make are locked behind those higher ranks, as I said before, so if you can't see some of these, please try and rank up. So in terms of my big ticket items for Grand Company seals, first off, we're talking ventures. And ventures, can you trade them on the market board directly? No. But these are the lifeblood of my next video and are an incredibly powerful, basically source of passive income, probably one of the most powerful that you can have. You'll want to buy as many of these ventures as you can to a reasonable point. But I cannot emphasize just how important they are for me personally, and they are something that I constantly use myself for passive guild making. They are very much worth buying. My second favorite purchases are going to come with a big disclaimer of always check your market board, but of all of these items on the materials tabs that are allowed on the market board, because some of them aren't. Like if you look at Fumite or Numite, I'm not sure how to spell it. It might be ammonia, like pH with, so maybe Numite, I'm not really sure. But all of these items that you can sell on the market board, like petrified log, potash, wootsor, and eagle feathers, these are very high selling items. So I'm going to be honest, I've probably bought thousands of arachne webs and sold them for a decent profit. And other items are petrified log, potash, wootsor, eagle feather. These are all extremely well selling. Again though, before you buy, I do recommend that you do a bit of note taking first and see what is really selling well on your server and what is going to net you the best bang for your Grand Company seals. Because some of these items are much more expensive for Grand Company seals and some of them are much cheaper. One last thing that I do want to mention that is worth looking into is relic items. These are very expensive Grand Company seal wise, but are purchased decently often and do sell at a decent price. These are King Cake, Adamantite Francesca, Dispelling Arrow, and Bombard Car. These are necessary items in order to complete the Heavensward relic weapon line and are extremely popular pieces of glamour, which we all know is the true endgame. So closing this video, let's talk about where you can get Grand Company seals. Before I go any further, I want to say that I do not advise you to go out of your way to farm Grand Company seals. This is a powerful method if you treat it as a passive method. It is a very weak method if you treat it actively. So my first recommendation is, as you expected with the Storm Personnel Officer, throwing in every single last piece of garbage that you manage to stumble across in any content that you do. Roll greed on everything, roll need on everything, and honestly, outside of specific trial gear where you can desynthesize the item for very expensive things like Celestial Kimono Remnant or other very high ticket items from extreme trials, I would definitely be throwing all of them into the recycling bin. Now my second recommendation is just passively collecting seals through farming fates, and this is something that especially I have done a lot lately between the Yokai-Watch event, grinding out every relic weapon, and farming bisexual gemstones and shadowbringers. You get a tremendous amount of seals at a very decent pace by doing this. So there are honestly a few other methods, but generally speaking, as long as you're just staying faithful to the greed roll, you should have a very steady influx of seals through these two methods. And I find other methods really just take far too long for the amount of profit that they yield. Anyhow, that is it for this method, and I hope that this video helped you out and helps you make a lot of gil. If you want to help support my content, I would super incredibly appreciate if you gently smash that like button with a scree and cat daddy that subscribe button. Especially as a smaller creator, I cannot say just how much it really means. It makes such a difference. It's more of a difference than you probably expect. Anyhow, I hope that you have an absolutely glorious day, and bye for now.